Hello and welcome to Big Orbit Games unboxing video of the new Magic the Gathering Duel Deck Nissa versus Nixilis. My name is Simon and I'll be doing the unboxing today. So the aim of the unboxing is not to give you some in-depth tactical strategic guide. There's an insert in here for that. This is just so you can have a look and see what the contents of the box are like, just in case you're curious. I'll also give you a rundown on what's in there, but this is more just if you're curious. So let's have a look and see what we get in the Duel deck. So you get deck boxes for each of them, so you can just keep them in these nice deck boxes. Unfortunately they won't fit if you sleeve them, but if you do sleeve them, maybe just cut the sides, the fronts of these out and just use them as an insert so you know which one's which at a glance. You get a rules reference in case this is the first time you're playing Magic or you're still relatively new to the game, which is what Duel decks are kind of good for that. Give you a more advanced look at the game. You also get this big fold out here, so I'm going to I'm going to fold it out. It doesn't all fit on camera at the same time, unfortunately, but so on one half you have Nissa, and then it explains the rules for the Planeswalkers and how they work. So on one half you have Nissa, on the other half you have Nixilis, and just gives you a nice bit of story and background between these two. They do have a clash in the Battle for Zendikar story, so take a read of that on the Wizards website if you're interested. And then on the back you have a complete deck list, useful if you ever decide to take the deck apart or borrow cards or change cards. You can always put it back together if you need to. Same for Nixilis. And then a little strategy guide on how to play the two different decks and how to play them against each other, which is, well, almost what it's made for. So let's put that to one side. So let's open this up. So, just take that bit off. So you get two spin down dice in here. They've got the Planeswalker symbol on them, so there's no unique symbol for the set per se, because these are just Planeswalker symbols, and there's red and white. So very useful though, because like I said, this is great if you are brand new to the game. This really is just about everything you could need. The only thing you might want is a few D6 just for marking tokens and stuff. So your two cover cards come separate. So here we have Nissa, Voice of Zendikar, and Nixilis Reignited. Now they are reprint cards, but with brand new artwork facing off against each other. Sorry, Duel of the Fates going there. So Nissa, as you can see, focuses on putting plant tokens, and gaining life and drawing cards down there. Nixilis lets you draw cards but lose life, destroy target creature, and whenever a player draws a card, you lose 2 life. So you can always, hopefully get his what they call ultimate ability off, which gives the emblem to another player, Koth Nissa, and whenever she decides to draw cards, she also loses life. Ha ha ha. So there we go. So that's of Nissa and Nixilis themselves. They're really good Planeswalkers. They're quite fun to play. Nothing too serious or taxing mentally, hopefully. So you put those two up there. So you get the deck sealed in here. Now there's a little tab, so you can open it up nice and easily, which is great for someone like me. Now I'm not going to go through every single card. There are loads of deck lists and loads of guides online for that sort of thing. What I'll just do is you're just going to flick through some of these cards, just highlight a few key ones like Oran Reef Hydra, really cool. 6 mana for a 5/5 with trample, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under control, put a 1/1 counter on it. However, if it's a forest, you get 2 instead. So funnily enough, this is a mono green deck, so full of forests. So play a few down, you've suddenly got yourself, a 9/9 or 11/11 Hydra, and he is big and nasty with trample then. Thicket Elemental's useful as well because you can do the kicking on it to reveal creature cards. Mosswort Bridge, this is what they call a hideaway land because it has the hideaway ability. So the way this one works, it enters tapped, look at the top 4 cards of the library, put 1 in exile face down, then put the rest on the bottom of the library. Most people took it sort of like so, they put it face down underneath it like that. And then it gives you the ability to not only produce green mana, but to pay a green mana and tap it to play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. The catch though, you must have a total power of 10 or greater amongst creatures you control. So you're hiding away a card until later in the game where you get to drop it down practically for free. So make sure you pick a nice big, bomb card that's really going to help you out later on. Something like a Visionary or Scythe Tiger, Scythe Leopard would probably not be a good pick because they're cheap and easy to play. You want to be picking something nice and big and meaty. So you can see there are elves in here. Nissa's chosen. The original Nissa Planeswalker from Zendikar interacted beautifully with Nissa's chosen, just as a reference for you there. But yeah, you've got plenty of elves in here, and a lot of them are going to fetch you mana or fetch you lands, which, as you'll see, you're going to need quite a few in this deck because you want to be paying all these extra costs, generating counters and such. So we've also got one of the evoke creatures here. So this is a old mechanic, but quite a nice one, I think. So it's a 4 mana for a 3/3 flash. So you can cast it at any time, or you can evoke it. And now when it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +3/+3 till end of turn. So you can just play it as normal. You'll have a 3/3 creature and another one gets pumped. Or for 2 mana, you can pay its evoke cost, and instead sort of treat it like a spell, really. You get to flash it in, because it's got flash. Give a creature +3/+3, but at end of turn, but after it's entered the battlefield, it's then immediately sacrificed. So you get its enter battlefield effect off, and then it dies. But it's useful for getting that +3 pump you might want, say like in the middle of combat, make something nice and strong, etc. There's a bit of counter moving around as well, you know, stuff getting +1/+1 counters. Like I said, you might want a D6, or some other way of tracking it, some little beads, etc. A bit of life gain on here, always welcome. This could be something good to hide away. 5 mana 4/4, not amazing. But if you have 8 or more lands, it gets +4/+4 and trample, so it becomes an 8/8 trample. And if you could play that for 1 mana, effectively 2 because you're tapping the land as well, you know. Walker of the Grove gets you elemental creature token. You can evoke that as well, so you can just play it. So you can pay the 8 mana later in the game to get 7/7 and a 4/4, or you can evoke it for 5 to get a 4/4. Crop rotation's cool, sack a land, but you get to go and search your library for a land. Remember, that says land, not just basic land. So you could go and get something like the Mosswalk Bridge, etc. Because they're non-basics. Vines of the Recluse, useful, instant for 1 green. Give a creature +1/+2 and reach, so it can hit flyers, and you untap it as well. Good for surprising your opponent during combat. They're attacking with their flying demon, per se. You get to untap one of your creatures and block it, and they never suspect it. Gaia's Blessing is good for using against the Nixilis Nissa deck, because target player shuffles up 3 cards from their graveyard into their library, and Nixilis has a few cards that like being in the graveyard or are useful there. So Gaia's Blessing can be useful for denying your opponent that. Seek the Horizon, so like I said, there's lots of land gaining. Fertile Thicket, even though it enters tapped, lets you look at the top 5 cards of your library for a basic land. It goes on top of your library, but you can draw it next turn. County Garden puts a token into play. Treetop Village, you can spend 2 mana and turn it into a 3/3 ape with trample. So this is useful. Play it down, it enters tapped, unfortunately, but you can just use it to start with to generate mana, or if you suddenly find yourself in need of, say, like a blocker or an extra attacker, you can turn it into an ape. And if you do look closely at the artwork, you can see a couple of apes in there. And of course, forests, because you always need forests. And then tokens, which you're going to need. So plant tokens, which are 0/1s, and a 4/4 elemental, which we saw earlier. So the aim of the Nissa deck is to focus on generating some tokens, getting lots of land into play to pay these kicker costs and additional costs, and then just sort of working your way into these big creatures. So they call this ramp, because you're ramping up your mana production. So there's lots of elves and stuff that help you with that mana production to get these big, nasty, stompy green creatures, which is what green is known for. And Nissa herself helps you because she generates plant tokens and puts counters on creatures you control. So she helps you make them more powerful, or later on you can use it to buff up those little elves she's got, actually make them more of a threat. So of Nixis's deck, seeing as he is a demon himself, you can imagine that there are going to be demons in this deck, and right off the bat we have Desecration Demon, who during the Return to Ravnica block was quite a hot card. So not as much these days, but he's still very good. 4 mana for 6/6 flying, that's very good costing. The downside though it can be considered an upside. At the beginning of each combat, your opponent can sacrifice a creature to tap Desecration Demon down, so denying him that attack. However, he gets a +1/+1 counter on it, so they're only delaying the inevitable by doing this. Now, as I said, Nissa can generate tokens, so she can keep almost indefinitely delaying the Desecration Demon, but he just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And that one turn when they can't do it, etc., boom, Desecration Demon gets to wreck the day. Despoiler of Souls is another good one. He's a 3/1, he can't block, but you can pay 2 and exile 2 other creature cards from your graveyard to return him from the grave to the battlefield. There are sacrificing cards in this deck, and you are going to have to sacrifice your own creatures. So to be able to get him back, albeit at a bit of a cost, is useful. Another demon, Indulgent Tormentor, is a 5-mana 5/3 of flying, but at the beginning of upkeep, draw a card unless your opponent sacrifices a creature or pays 3 life. So, win-win, isn't it, really, there? Another demon, Pestilence Demon, you can pay 1 to deal a damage to each creature and player. So this harkens back to an old card called Pestilence. Good for killing off your opponent Nissa's plant tokens, for example, by dealing damage to all of them. I won't go through every single card, but there's some really cool ones in here. I like Priest of the Blood Rite. So he's a 5-mana 2/2. Terrible. No, when he enters the battlefield, put a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying on the battlefield. Woo! That's fantastic. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 2 life. That sucks. So what you'd ideally do is play Priest of the Blood Rite, and then use something that requires you to sacrifice a creature. Boom. Get rid of the Priest. You don't have to pay that upkeep cost. So yeah, so we've got some imps in there, fitting with the demons. Blister Grub, feel free to block him, go on, seeing as when he dies each opponent loses 2 life. Giant Scorpion, a classic. Squelching Leeches is a replacement for a card called Nightmare, which is a very classic card of Magic history. This one's a 4-mana for ***. So his power and toughness are equal to the number of swamps you control, so the later the game goes, the more powerful he becomes for 4 mana. Another demon, Renegade Demon. He can have some spells as well. So we've got like Disfigure, -2/-2 until end of turn on a creature. Useful for killing off some owls, shall we say. Innocent Blood, each player sacrifices a creature, get rid of that Priest of the Blood Rite, and your opponent loses something as well. Cause your opponent to discard cards equal to reveal their hand equal to the number of swamps you have and discard a card. Useful. Quest for the Graveyard. This is something you want to get out into play early. It's a 1-mana enchantment. When a creature dies, put a quest counter on it. Remove 3 quest counters and sacrifice it to get a 5/5 black zombie giant creature token onto the battlefield. It's a big meaty powerhouse. Something you really want to get out into the battlefield as early as you can. Altar's Reap, as additional cost, you have to sacrifice a creature, but you get to draw 2 cards. Doomblade with some very nice artwork. Destroy target non-black creature. Oh look, there's a pure green deck there. None of it's black. Shows the path Smallpox. I like Smallpox. There's an entire modern deck effectively based around Smallpox. Each player loses a life, discards a card, sacrifices a creature, then sacrifices land. You both have to do it, but hopefully you're in a position where you don't mind sacrificing a few things, because your opponent's going to be losing lots anyway. Unhallowed Pact's good for this as well, because enchant a creature for 3 mana, and when it dies, return it to the battlefield under your control. No, under your control. You could enchant your opponent's creature. Just a thought for you. Draw 3 cards and lose 3 life. Tendrils of Corruption, deal X damage to target creature and gain X life. X is the number of swamps you control. What you have to be careful of in this deck is that there is a lot of loss of life and sacrificing your own creatures and stuff, so you need to carefully time when you use something like Tendrils of Corruption. Make sure you get the maximum amount of life back, put you back in position. And then Demon's Grasp, which has Nixilis' arm and Shadow there, grasping. Target creature gets -5/-5 till end of turn. Good for taking out something big, especially if you do it post-combat when you've attacked. Say they've attacked or you've attacked, they've blocked with a creature, it's taken some damage, it's weakened, Demon's Grasp it. And then we get Leech-Ridden Swamp. Enters tapped, but you can then pay 1 black and tap it. Each opponent loses a life, but you only can do this if you control 2 or more black permanents. And then lots of swamps. Eldrazi Scions, demon token, zombie giant token, and an emblem just in case you do get off of Nixilis' ultimate ability. So there's only one non-basic in this deck compared to the 3 or 4 in Nissa's, but we don't mind. There's plenty of swamps, and there's lots of cards in there that say do X because of swamps, so that's fine. So yeah, Nissa's deck is all about making your plants, ramping up, playing your big stompy green creatures, which it's known for. The black deck, sacrificing life, sacrificing creatures, all in order to gain that little bit of extra power so you can play big scary demons, and then denying your opponent at the same time by forcing them to sacrifice and discard as well. Very classic black plays. So those are the 2 decks that you get in there. They should be very fun to play against each other, just because Nissa's got so many ways of gaining land and creatures and life, and then Nixilis goes and denies it by taking all of that away from her. You're going to have to play a bit of a balancing game with Nixilis because the amount you are sacrificing and losing life, you're going to have to be a bit careful that Nissa's deck doesn't sneak in there. And again, Nissa's deck, you need to make sure you are in a position where you can keep generating creatures and so forth, because Nixilis will be trying to deny you of those. So there we go, those are the 2 duel decks. They should be very fun to play against each other. I think it's a really good duel decks. It's a bit better than some of the previous ones they've released, because the other ones are a little bit complicated in what they did, whereas these are a bit more back to basics and are more classic formulas for the solid colours that they are. So there we go, that's everything in the Nissa vs Nixilis duel decks. And remember, all the cards you've seen here today can be bought and sold on our website individually on bigorbitcards.co.uk. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. Other than that, like and subscribe. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.